Wednesday afternoon, back in Las Vegas, back in the desert. Time to get back to the Strip. I think we're gonna head to the Bellagio, check out the 5-10 games. Only problem is, won't be able to record at the table, unfortunately. So, still trying to work out those details, etc. But, gotta get back on the grind regardless. So, gonna head over there, play some hands, probably have to relay them after the fact, but hopefully that's better than nothing. Gonna head over there.
Once again.
Same situation as before. These are the only 5-10 games that are running in all of Las Vegas, so not really that much choice to be had. So we're gonna check it out and see how it is. All right, currently second up on the 5-10 list, waiting to get in the game. Games look decent, pretty much as usual, so to see how it is. But a couple people have asked me what it is that I look for as far as game selection, how I determine whether a game is good, not so good. So there's a couple general things that you kind of want to be on the lookout for. In Vegas, it's a little bit easier for me because the player pool is fairly well known as far as the regulars. I've been playing here for years now, and I pretty easily recognize all the regulars that are living here. If I'm traveling somewhere for work and playing somewhere outside of Las Vegas, I guess what I would look for in general is a lively, somewhat loud table. You generally want to be at the loudest table in the room. You want to be at a table that is more social. Drinks are always a good sign. If there's a lot of guys that are sitting there with headphones on, hoodies up, headphones on, not really talking, it's probably a pretty bad sign. It's probably a sign of some guys that are just looking to grind it out, not really looking to be super social, and as a result, not really doing a whole lot of gambling. Guys that are on the iPads, either watching movies or surfing the internet or what have you. These are situations where people are just doing a lot of folding, waiting for good cards, and that's it. Not really the best lineup, you could say. If there's a table that's doing a lot of conversing, having some cocktails, generally a little bit on the louder side, that's the table that you want to be at. Also, these are some things that you can help facilitate. Don't be afraid to start up some conversation. Not saying you have to necessarily indulge in heavy drinking at the table. If someone offers to buy a round, I recommend partaking, but if you don't drink alcohol, that's fine too. Just don't sit there with headphones on, hoodie up, watching a movie on your iPad. Try and facilitate a happy gambling environment if you can. Just wrapping it up. A little bit of a crazy one today. Some ups, some downs, some more ups, some more downs. Pretty standard for poker, I guess, but decent amount of action today. Just gonna switch up the scenery here, and then we'll go over some hands. Welcome to Top Golf. So I actually only played 5-10 for maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours, something like that. Most of the hands were C-bets that didn't get the job done, or me calling a C-bet and then folding on the turn. There was one interesting hand from 5-10. There was a middle position open for 30, and I defended the big blind with ace-5 of diamonds. Flop comes queen 7-3 with 2 diamonds. I check, he bets 40, I call. Turn is a 6 of diamonds, so we make the nut flush on the turn. I decide to check it over to him again, and he bets 110 this time. I put in the check raise, I make it 300 to go, and he thinks for a bit, and then he calls. River's an offsuit king, so we still have the nuts. I have about $750 or $800 at this point, so I just decided to stick it all in there. It's a little bit over a pot size bet, but pretty close to pot size. So I jam for about $750 or $800. He thinks for a while, but then he folds. So that was by far the most interesting hand at 5-10. I wouldn't move to the 2-5 after that because the game was fairly reggy. So there were a handful of interesting hands that went down in the 2-5 game. In this first one, the under the gun +1 makes it $25 to go. In the exact previous hand to this one, this player had played a pretty big pot, and he got shown a bluff. He laid down pocket kings, and his opponent bluffed him on the river and then showed it. So this same player opens the very next hand for $25. We look down at 2 kings next to act. Seems like a pretty good situation, so I 3-bet to 75 right away. It folds back to him, and he gives it the shrug, and then I'm all in. So I say, well, you got it. Pretty good timing for you. I call. Sure enough, he rolls over pocket aces. However, flop comes pretty favorable. Flop comes king 6-4. There are 2 spades on the flop, and he happens to have the ace of spades. Turn brings a sweat. Turn brings the 9 of spades. Now we have a sweat. River card, offsuit 10. So we get a pretty big suck out there. Got it in bad. Came out good. Clean living, I guess. Next interesting hand came with the hijack opening for $15. The cutoff calls, and I looked down at 2 queens in the big blind. Cutoff was another recreational player that I've never seen before, so pretty obvious 3-bet here. I make it $60 to go. Both players call. So we head to the flop 3 ways. Flop is favorable. Flop is queen, 8, deuce. We flop the top set, and it's a fairly dry board. There's a straight draw-ish out there. There's a gut shot straight draw out there, but aside from that, not too much to worry about. So I check it. The initial raiser, the hijack, he puts out a bet of $50. He doesn't have much behind, but he bets $50. The cutoff folds, it's back to us. He's got about 115, 120 or so behind. I decide to keep the slow play on just in case. Turn is a blank, turn is 5. I check it over to him again, and he sticks it in there. Snap call and turn it over right away. Pretty sure he's drawing dead here. River's a 10. We basically have the nuts here. He mucks. Very shortly after that hand, the same player opens again for $15. There's 2 calls, and I look down at pocket 10s in the big blind. I would almost always flat here, but I figured since it was this same player, he had just gotten stacked very recently, maybe he's opening a little bit lighter, maybe he's a little bit steamed up, and it's only a $15 open, so I don't expect people to be opening for 15 with their premiums too often. So I decided to put in the 3-bet, and I make it $70 to go. So it's back on him, it's back on the cutoff, and he puts in a 4-bet. He makes it 170 to go. Folds back to me. So now the situation is kind of crappy. Folding sucks. He only has about 140 left. Folding 10s kind of sucks because if we do make a mistake here and we get it in bad, it's not super deep stack, so it's not the biggest mistake of all time. Folding sucks. Pocket 10's pretty good hand, it seems like. He's a recreational player and he's stuck. How bad could it be? In hindsight, I decided to make what could easily be called the strangest of my options. I decided to just flat call. I figure if the flop comes ace, king, queen with all hearts, maybe I can get away from like a terrible flop, but I'm planning on just going with the hand no matter what. So I just call. Not really sure why, but I just call. Flop comes ace, king, 3, all diamonds. I check it over to him and sure enough he sticks it in there for about $140. I look back and see if I have a diamond, and I do. So now it's a really ridiculous situation. You can easily have a good flush draw here. I don't really expect to have the best hand too often on this flop. Almost never, but tiny percentage, sure. It's only $140 into whatever it is, so I just shrug and call it off. I'm planning on winning, not very often, but maybe. I think our flush draw has to be good some percentage of the time here. He asks if I have one diamond, and I say I do, and turn is a diamond right away. River is a brick. He tells us we got it. I show my hand, and he shows pocket aces for flop top set. Pretty ugly hand. Fairly embarrassed about that one, but I honestly am not too sure what I was thinking on that entire hand. Not my proudest moment, but we get there versus the aces. Once again, get it in bad and come out ahead. I mean, maybe it's that clean living thing, but I don't live that clean, so I don't know. I'm not too sure what's going on. So shortly after that hand, there's 2 limps, and I look down at pocket 10s again. And I make it 25 to go on the button. Both limpers call. So we go 3 ways to a flop of queen, 10, 8, rainbow. Flop middle set here. They both check to me. Fairly coordinated board here. I bet 50 into about 75. The first player, he check raises, puts in a check raise of 150. We only lose to one hand here really, because I never expected him to be limp calling pre-flop with pocket queens. So we're obviously never folding, and he only has about 300 behind. I decided to flat call and keep all ranges wide. Turn is a brick. He thinks for a little while, and he jams his stack in there, about $300. We obviously snap call. River's a jack, so it puts 4 to a straight up there. He asks if we have a set, which is a good question. I say yes, we do. He says set is good. I happily roll over the pocket 10s. He shows an 8, which means he either had a set of 8s or he flopped 2 pairs. So either way, it was a favorable flop, and we scooped that one. Last interesting hand came when I looked down a king 10 offsuit from under the gun +1. Definitely not towards the top of my range here. Not a very strong hand to be opening an early position, but fairly straightforward 2-5 game. It felt like it was okay. Wasn't getting put in too many tough spots, so I opened it up for 20. End up getting 4 calls, so it goes 5 ways to the flop. Flop is king jack 9 with 2 clubs. So we flop top pair with a gut shot. Could go 1 of 2 ways. Could bet and get some value from flush draws and worse pair plus draw type hands. Or you could try and pot control a little bit. I'm not sure what's best here, to be honest, but I decided to go the latter route. I check it and it checks all the way through. Turn is the 8 of diamonds, so it brings it back to our flush draw. 2 flush draws on board now. The big blind, he leads out pretty quickly. He bets $75. I feel like with my top pair plus draw, hand is a little bit under rep perhaps. So I decided to make the call, and everyone else folds. So we go heads up to the river. Before the river card is even dealt, the big blind puts out a bet, and he bets $125. Pretty strange. I feel like if he had a straight already or a 2 pair, he might want to wait and find out if the flush comes in, if either of the flush draws come in, and then check and bluff catch perhaps. I don't know. Kind of a strange spot to be betting right away, but the river is an offsuit jack. Not my favorite card because some of those worse pair plus draw hands are now beating us. So definitely not a snap call. But just him leading out like that seemed fairly on the strange side, and again, I felt like my hand was maybe slightly under rep, so I don't know. I don't expect to win there all the time by any means, but for 125, I decided to make the call. Good news, he just mucks it, so we take that one down, scoop another decent sized pot there, winning with the worst hands and winning with the best hands. Pretty good combination. So after all was said and done, we won a little bit over $1,000. We won $1,020. So we have some Sklansky bucks to reimburse. Got it in bad a couple times, came out ahead. Won some hands with the best hand as well. So like I said, not my proudest session, but happy to take it. If anybody out there is looking for a little extra run good, I suggest you start a vlog. The vlog run good is real.